Good evening. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
And I'm Rich Carlson.
Welcome back, Rich. Good to have you back.
Glad to be back.
And I'm pretty excited about our audience. They were able to make the transition over from one video to another.
Yep.
Um, if you're just joining us this evening, we just ran a premiere of a walkthrough of the Sentinel software and creating a favorites list.
I'm glad you knew how to set that up because I had no idea what you were doing, but it worked.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. I'm just closing some of my windows over here. We actually had
Yep.
several windows open to make sure everything transitioned
Yeah.
properly.
Don't let the
Uh,
rain in,
all right, so let's remind you guys of a couple of things, and then we'll dive into the Q&A,
Yep.
and we will answer some of your questions, and we're looking forward to that. So let's pop up the slideshow right here. All right, so if you're joining us this evening, this is the Q&A portion of the broadcast. We're going to be talking about Sentinel software. Any questions that you may have had, we're going to address it during this show. This will tie into basically the other video, which is a pre-produced video that I put together later on this month. So we would love for you to support the channel. Make sure you shop our store. Hats are available for Train Aficionado. We're working on the scanner guys, but we do have T-shirts, a travel mug, hoodies, a whole bunch of different things in our merch store. So definitely check that out. You can check it out at thescannerguysstore.com. Also, sign up for our newsletter while you're at our website as well. Follow, like, and subscribe to our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel as well. Larry Roof was on Train Aficionado last week. What a great interview we had with him. So if you've missed that, definitely hop over to the Train Aficionado YouTube channel and watch it. Great interview discussing railroad history in Indiana. Certainly awesome. He's an author of a book and also a vet. So really cool thing that he did over COVID, writing this wonderful book. So definitely check that out. Now let's hop over to our walkthrough Q&A. So Sentinel software. Sentinel has been around for quite a while. Sentinel is available in two versions. It's available for the Home Patrol 1 and Home Patrol 2.
That's the
And then
brown version.
the brown version, yes.
Yeah.
And then the shield is green for everything else that's home patrol style radios, 436, 536, SDS 100 and 200. So Rich, you were able to use this software quite a bit, right from the
Mm-hmm.
early days. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for the most part, it's pretty user friendly.
Yeah, it's not that hard to figure out once you play with it a little bit and you get used to it. And if you've got a whole boatload of radios like I do, I mean, I've got 11 radios that use the green uh, Sentinel and two that use the brown. And I do all my updates at once. I go out to the car, grab my SD cards, and I'll do about 20 SD cards with the Green Shield because of with the Green Sentinel because of the backup cards and everything I got. And once you get it all done once, you just start changing cards and hitting the button, and it's easy to do a whole boatload of radios, and it's even easier to do one.
Yeah, the good thing about it too, I mean, the ability to create favorites lists is definitely key. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of us came from scanners that had banks or, the dynamic allocated memory system, which is kind of like banks on steroids. So we're used to building out our own programming. So with that, this opened up the easy to program scanners to some of the advanced users. I remember when we beta tested the Home Patrol 1, a lot of the people on the beta team were like, what the heck is this? A zip code programming radio? I'm not going to be crazy about this.
Yeah.
And then I was on the team and I said, this is perfect for the Scanner Master customers. So for the beginner, it was ideal. Excuse me. But it wasn't most ideal for the experts. And I was thinking to myself, you know, this radio is good for an expert. You create a favorites list.
Yeah.
And you can create as many favorites lists as you like. The thing is those favorites lists are little text files. And you know, Rich, with an SD card, a little SD card, you could put on hundreds of favorites lists.
Yeah, they don't take up any room at all. And whether you've got 1, 2, or 50 radios that use those favorites lists, especially if you got multiple radios, just throw all your favorites lists on all your radios, and then you can just turn on and off the ones that you want to listen to on this radio and on that radio. And if you need to change something in a hurry or back one up, it's all right there.
Yeah, I mean the clean slate scanners. I see the comments there, like the 996 P2 and the 325 P2 and even the 15X. I
Yeah.
think, Rich, you and I coined it as clean slate scanners. There's basically, they need to be programmed for those areas in order for them to work.
Yeah.
With these radios, the Home Patrol style radios, you can plug in a zip code and it'll basically determine what to scan, sometimes a lot. I mean, it'll pull in a lot. That's why we recommend to a lot of our customers, we tell them, favorites list is the route to go. If you want to fine tune to like a handful of departments, that's the best way to do it.
And the biggest advantage to using the full database is when you're not familiar with what's going on where you happen to be. So if you are traveling and you're staying in a hotel in East Bumper Rust, Idaho, and you don't know what they're using out there, just pop in the zip code or the city and state, and the radio will tune itself up to the stuff that's being used in that area. And now you can start listening to it and say, oh, okay, great. Yeah, they're using this, they're using that. And you get something you don't want to care about, that you don't care about, just hit that avoid button.
Yeah, I mean, but when you're listening at home, do you really want to be hearing everything and its uncle?
No, I use all favorites lists all the time at home. Every once in a while, I will go in and I'll turn on the full database just for grins and giggles and to see if I'm missing anything. And, but for, 99% of the time, it's all favorites lists.
Yeah, the same thing with me. Even in my truck, I'm running a favorites list with GPS enabled. So I'm literally like picking the things I want to be able to monitor. And plus, I'm tweaking radiuses as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of advantages of doing it. And plus, I've created favorites lists for the railroads. And of course, I don't have those GPSed out because, that's over hundreds of miles. So
I do the same thing. I've got two 536s in the car or in the truck, and I use one on close call most of the time, and the other one is normally scanning railroads and local stuff. But when I'm in the road, I'm driving to Chicago or something like that, I pop in. I've got the GPS. I pop in, the full database and let it rip.
Yeah, we have the ability to show off the software here. I just wanted to show you real quick. So the two shields you can see right over here. The brown shield is basically the Home Patrol 1 and 2, and the green shield, which I have downloaded here, is your 436, 536, and SDS 100 and 200. Now, the great thing about it is the video you watched, basically the instructions, oops, I already have that one open, but the instructions that you followed on there apply to both.
Yeah.
So, creating a favorites list is going to be no different on one software or the other. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, and the only reason there's actually two versions anyways is because the radios work differently internally, and, you just can't have the same control codes for the Home Patrol versus the 436, 536s, which came out after. But they work almost identically, between the two of them. So if you know one, you'll have no problem transitioning into the other.
So we're going to show you some additional tricks this evening. Now you've taken a look here. Let me show you, Rich. I got a railroad search here.
Mm-hmm.
How did I do that? I'm going to show you how I did that. So basically, I've created a railroad search here. It's basically channel 1 all the way to 97, which we can see here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do service searches on here. There's a fun way of doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show everybody right now, and then we're going to get to some of your questions. But this is a cool thing that I use all the time. So we can basically select any state, any county, and then what I can do here is go nationwide. And any one of these things I can make into a favorites list.
Yep.
So let's say, for example, I know that we have some people that like to monitor the CB band. So what I can do is go right here, right click on this, append to favorites list, name this list CB search, hit OK, and look at that. I have a
There it
service
is.
search for CB.
You just created a favorites list in 15 seconds.
Favorites list in 15 seconds. And the great thing is, when I want to use this favorites list as a service search, I just go to the menu and toggle that favorites list on. And
Yeah.
then when I don't want it, I toggle it off.
Yep.
So, Rich, let's I guess what we can do is we'll start with um the questions that are in our private chat. So,
Sure. Well, we got the one so far
okay.
that we put in there. So don't put the second one in there.
Yeah, I can't
um,
put those in, but we can
yeah.
read it.
So one of the posters wrote, "I made a bunch of favorites lists for my trip, but I kept getting an error message that the files were too big. How is that even possible when it segments from the full file from the database?" And it's kind of infuriating. So what's your take on that first?
That I haven't heard of. I haven't gotten that error. The only thing I could think
Yeah.
of is maybe there's an SD card issue.
What I was thinking is that he might be trying to like make the entire state a favorites list or a huge system because the radios do have a channel limit, or how many channels you can be in a favorites list, and I think it's 500, I think, per favorites list. So if he's trying to download an
Yeah.
entire system that has 1,000 talk groups and 50 sites, that particular favorites list might be too big for the radio. I don't think the favorites list is too big for the card. I think it's just the favorites list he's trying to create are too big for the radio for a single favorites list. He may have to break that up into multiple favorites lists.
Okay.
I had to do that with the state system in Illinois. It was too
So it's a
big to
limit.
fit in a single favorites list, so I made a north, south, and a central, and it worked fine.
Yeah. So I've never basically plateaued that. I mean, I've done
Hmm.
several favorites lists, but I've kind of when I do the favorites list, I'm going in there and cherry picking things.
Yeah, and
I
I'll
can
bet you
actually
try downloading like the entire state of Virginia into a single favorites list, and you'll probably get an error message saying that it's too big.
let's see. We'll give it a shot.
Will say it won't even let you append because the state. So go into Virginia and go to the stars system. Pick a county and go into the stars system.
Let's see.
Yep, that one there. Yeah.
All right. And now it's going to allow you to do it. I
Yeah,
mean,
but I bet you.
I've done all of New
Yeah.
England on my favorites list, and I didn't have the issue.
Okay, well, there might have been, like I say, there might have been some sort of issue somewhat related to that. But I'm sure that's what's been going on.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing too, make sure they have the latest and greatest Sentinel software. That could be another issue as well. And then it may
Yeah.
be another thing with reforming the SD card. So I just made a favorites list
Hmm.
that I don't want, which is super simple. You're going to see me do it right here. It's called test. It's down towards the bottom.
Hmm.
I'm basically going to go in here and I'll remove this favorites list and just hit OK. and that'll make it disappear.
Yep.
Um, so the great thing about creating these favorites lists with that trunk system, actually, you know what I'll do is I'll grab that trunk system again.
Oh yeah, there we go. Dan mentioned 1 megabyte limit. So he might have tried to create a database that's more than 1 megabyte. And and there's also, like I say, there might be a channels and site limit as well.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely could be some
Yeah.
limits in there. I mean, I've done all of New England,
Hmm.
but I cherry picked all my stuff, so I pick and choose.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not grabbing every um, department in an agency or every talk group.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I basically fine tune the programming. But you can see in here that this is the computer I actually. This is Sentinel, so hold on. This is the computer I actually did the. Maybe I deleted it. Nope, here it is. The main railroads and the Portland, Maine, and Glendale. This is the computer that I actually put together the video with.
Hmm.
All right, so let's take a look at some other questions here. Um, yeah, so the database update is the same for the SDS 100 and 200, the internal database from Radio Reference. So when you
Right.
go to when you go up to the tools, actually not tools, when you go up to database main update,
Hmm.
it's going to update the database for the software, and then this can be written to any one of those radios that this software is associated to. And it looks
Right.
like I've got an update because it's going to do it right now in front of us.
Yeah. And if you take a look at the very bottom left corner of this particular window that you have up on the screen, you can't do it now because that pop up is up there. But if you look in that very low corner, you'll see a date there. And that date will be the date of the database. So the one I've got up there right now on the computer is 710 of 22, which is right because they usually come out on Sunday morning or sometime during Sunday. And so now you did your last update last week. When you're done here, that database version date will show the 10th because they do it once a week, usually on the weekend. And don't
So
sweat it if there was no database update in one particular week. Every once in a while, there might be a computer glitch or something like that down at Uniden or someplace that they may have to skip a week because they were trying to get that fixed. It happens. A lot of times, if the Sunday update doesn't happen, they'll get it fixed on Monday or Tuesday when the IT guy gets there. So
yeah, so this is loading right now. It takes a little bit because what it does is it basically pings the server. Once
hmm
it grabs that information, it then has to load it into the Sentinel software. Now, keep in mind,
yeah,
because I've done this, doesn't mean my radio is up to date. I have to then write this to the radio. It's not going to
right,
magically update on the radio. I need to connect up the radio up to the computer or take out the SD card, put it in an SD card reader, and force full write to database. That ensures
yeah,
when you do force full write to database, that ensures not only your favorites list that you've made are going to go there, it also ensures that database is going to be updated because you want to update that database because
yeah,
Rich's example, you make an unexpected stop on your trip and you didn't create a favorites list for that little town in the middle of Idaho. Um, you're staying at the hotel and you said, I wonder what's going on here. Let me put in the zip code. They may have had a brand new trunk system pop up. And
yeah.
if it's on there and you haven't updated the database in a while in the scanner, you're not going to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you do any type of programming in Sentinel, whatever you do in Sentinel has to then be written to the radio. The only thing that you do in Sentinel that automatically writes itself to the radio are the firmware updates.
Yeah.
So, and then there was a question which leads us right into here is about updating the Sentinel software itself.
It'll
So,
actually prompt you, which is pretty
yeah,
smart.
So when you do a database update, Sentinel, if there is a publicly available Sentinel update for ready for you, you'll get a message saying you can't do anything until you update Sentinel. It kind of forces you to do it. So then you have to update Sentinel. It's same procedure. It downloads it, and then you go into the download. You hit the install button. It'll overwrite the old Sentinel with the new Sentinel, new version of the Sentinel, and off you go. If you don't get that prompt, that means that the version of Sentinel that you have is either current or not one that the current version needs to replace.
Correct. Now, since we're doing this live, I'll show. I popped the SD card out of my my 536 over here. I'm actually going to plug it in over here, and I'm actually going to show you a cool thing. So these favorites lists, I don't want on this radio. I don't want them on there at all. So the way to be able to do that is we're going to go up to Edit. We're going to go to Profile. Oops, let me just click on that. So we're going to Edit, Profile. And then this pops up. And then you do Favorites List. So what I want to do is I want to basically press off and then off on download. Select the next one, off, off. And then on the CB one, I don't want it on there, so off, off. So basically, when I go to write this radio, it's not going to install these favorites lists. Now, the other cool trick of this screen is, let's say, for example, I want this tri-state, railroad profile written to the scanner, but I don't want it on as monitor on. What I can do is put download on, monitor off. So that means what it's going to do is it's going to default to basically turning that favorites list off, but it's going to download to the radio. So it will be available to me if I do decide that I want to use it.
Yep. And if you recognize this screen and remember it next time you're in Sentinel, it will save you a whole bunch of grief, because otherwise it will default to whatever was done originally, and chances are everything will be off for monitor and on for download. I think that's the default. And then you got to go into set scan selection and turn on the stuff you want, or it just gets kind of.
The other thing too, Rich, for those of you that are using favorites lists all the time, see this little check mark here, monitor full database? Check that off, because what's going to happen is when we go to write to the radio, it's going to then turn that favorites list. It's going to turn on those favorites lists, and you're going to have full database at the same time, whatever you had in there for a zip code.
That's those are great. That's a great screen to remember, because that is going to be very, very helpful.
Did I update? Hold on one second. So that's everything off there. So I've got two softwares running at the same time. So this one, we've updated this one. So what I'll do is I'll show you. You probably saw this in the video, but I want to show you again. So let me make sure that I have everything. Make sure everything's off on there. So we'll wait for that to load. Yep. So off, off, off. Perfect. What I'll do is X this out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write the database to the radio, but I'm not writing those favorites lists. So click here. It's going to show me the radio serial number. What I want to do is I want to keep the current favorites list on the scanner. So make sure that there's no check mark in that box, or it's going to wipe out whatever favorites list I have in the scanner. And then I want to do full database write. So I'll hit OK. And now it's going to write it to the scanner.
Yeah.
What's our next question?
And in your particular thing, you're doing the SD card, which is great if your scanner's in the car and your computer's inside. You don't want to bring your laptop out to the car. Just go out to the car, grab the SD card, bring it inside, and go.
I'm trying to find.
And when it's 115 outside, like it is here, doing the stuff from inside the air conditioning is great.
Yes. And another thing, if your computer doesn't have a built-in micro, Let me go wide
Okay.
angle.
Before you take the SD card out, let's try doing a firmware update.
Sure.
Joe suggested that just to see if if that shows up. That'd be a great thing to show how that works.
All right, let's take a look. So yet again, it's seeing the serial number and the make and model of the
Yeah, let's see
scanners.
the computer. Let's see the computer on the screen here.
Oh shoot, hold on.
There you go.
Here we
So
go.
there
We
it
got a
goes. Look
firmware
at this.
update.
We're getting an update. So it's been a while since there's been some firmware updates. So it's very convenient that there was an update this week.
I can't move that, but that's okay.
Yeah, you can't change the screen until it's done with this pop up.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time, so don't be in a rush when you do this.
Yeah. And so it's downloading it from server and it's going to write it to the SD card. And the way this works with the firmware updates, it's actually pretty cool. And it's actually pretty simple when you think about it. The software, the Sentinel software, downloads the firmware into your computer and writes it directly to a folder on your SD card called firmware. And then when you turn the radio off and then back on again, or unplug the USB cable from the computer if you're doing it directly to the radio automatically checks that firmware folder on its SD card for an update and then writes it to the radio. So make sure you don't turn off your radio when you're doing this so it can, it writes the firmware file up to date. And once that's done, the radio will just start scanning with what you have. So this is a great demonstration of how to update the firmware on your scanner as well.
Yeah, so it's doing it right now on the radio. So it's do not turn off radio while powering up. It's doing the firmware update.
Yep. It's really simple. And like I say, it works just as fine with writing it directly to your SD card or by plugging the USB cable into your radio and basically turning your radio into a relatively slow SD card reader. Those little SD card readers, like Jonathan showed you a couple of minutes ago, read and write to the SD cards much faster than the radio does. So if you're doing 5 radios or 25 radios, it is a lot faster to swap SD cards in the computer in your SD card reader than it is to unplug the computer from one radio and plug it into another, especially if the radios aren't in the same place.
Maybe I should do all my programming and updating.
Yeah, do all the programming on live. Yeah,
gives me time to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Really
and
cool.
Michael had a great question. The very last question there: location control on or off. That was on that profile editing window.
Yes. So location, I'll show you how to do that in a second. Soon as this is done loading. So I'm updating the firmware on another radio. So let me just hit OK.
There, we've done 2 radios in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Let's go in and let me just do a quick favorites list. So let's say we wanted to do Plymouth County. So we want to do all these cities and towns here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one, do a shift. I'm going to do a pen favorites list. We're going to call this Plymouth CO. We're going to hit OK. All right. So every one of these municipalities are going to have their own latitude and longitude because it's not what I miss terribly is local dispatching, where a lot of areas are regional dispatching. This county is still local dispatching, which I love and I miss dearly. So each one of these towns is going to have their own fire dispatch, their own police dispatch, So what we're going to do is we're going to go here, Plymouth County. We're going to go into program favorites list. As soon as it pops up. Then we're going to go to options. Under options, you notice that location control is a no. So I'm going to put yes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out of the programming and hit the X. It's going to ask me, do I want to save these changes? Yes, I do. So I'm going to hit yes and watch this. So you remember all those other favorites lists defaulted to a no for
Yeah.
location control. I physically went in there and told the radio I want to do location control. So I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to go to profile. It takes a second for it to load. Take a look at Plymouth County now. It
Yep.
shows under location service, I get a big fat yes. So it's going to
Yeah.
do it.
Yep. And so that's a great tool. So
Actually, I'm going to remove these. Actually, I'll go in here and I'll show you how to remove some of these favorites lists. So,
yeah.
uh, so remove.
Yeah, I think you can only do one at a time.
Yeah.
And if you take a look right there, save of the screen. If you go back and click Glendale, right click. Okay, stay there. Don't actually select it. Go right click on it, and now you see where it says DEL after remove from favorites list. So if you highlight it and just hit your delete button, it'll delete it, just like as if you did it with the menu. So you don't have to go through the right click. You just highlight it and hit the DEL button, and it'll do the same thing as you just saw him do.
Okay. The other thing, too, is with a lot of these towns, take for instance right here, when I did this, it's going to import in the public works, and there's multiple channels. So what I
Mm-hmm.
can do is a couple of different things. Let's say if I didn't want to listen to Middleborough Public Works, I can go in here and then do a shift, select all the public works, and then remove them from the favorites list like that. The other
Yeah.
option, which I can do in the software, is I can go to edit. Whoops. Oh, hold on one second. So we'll go to edit profile. And then what we're going to do is service types. Now here it automatically defaults to the public works. It looks like it's on because I turned it on.
Right.
But typically it's defaulted to off. Now, if you're a rail buff and you created a favorites list with the railroads and you're wondering why you can't hear anything or it shows nothing to scan, the problem is it defaults railroads to be off. So what you want to do is you want to go into here in the Sentinel software and put a big check mark right here.
Yep.
And this would allow the railroads to be on. So when you go to write to the radio, it's going to write the favorites list. It's going to write these settings as well.
Yep.
What other questions do we have, Rich?
All right. So let's see here. John says we should do the same thing for Whistler TRX software sometime. They have a different software. It's called EasyScan. And if you're used to the Uniden software, you're going to be totally lost with the Whistler software. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a Unity guy so much these days that I look at a Whistler and go,
yeah.
But
Unfortunately for me, the same thing, and
yeah.
I'm gonna have to learn it again because
Mm-hmm.
I don't dabble into the TRX 1 and 2 too much at all.
Yeah.
Um, the Sentinel software I find from a standpoint is more user friendly versus
Yeah.
the Easy Scan. If you want my honest opinion, the Easy Scan is a little bit more clunky. There's a lot of additional stuff. I mean, the great thing about the Sentinel software, it's great for the beginner, and it
Yep.
has some of the features that are for some of the advanced users. But if you're extremely advanced, then you can do the Butel ARC patrol if
But
it's home patrol 1 or
yeah.
2, or you can do the ARC 536, which covers the 436, 536, and the SDS 100 and 200.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. The Easy Scan is trying to do everything all at once, and the Uniden you have more options with the Uniden. You can use the Uniden Sentinel software. It'll do 99% of the stuff that 99% of the people want. Or you can use ARC products, and there's other products out there too, to be honest, although we like ARC best.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly good stuff. I mean, for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, the other thing I can show you too, which I believe I showed you in the video as well, is going into the programming option. It'll open this dialog box again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say for whatever reason, I don't like seeing municipality on every one of these listed here. Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
So what I could do is I can go into here and backspace this out and knock it right out. So basically it'll say
Yeah.
Abington. And I can do the same thing for all the other things in the list. The other cool thing I can do is, let's say for Carver, I got a frequency that's not listed on radio reference. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
add it into the list. So what I can do is hit the plus sign. Um, let's say this is D
Secret Squirrel Channel.
Public Works Channel 2. And let's
Mm-hmm.
say for whatever reason they're using their low band channel. So hold on one second. Click into there. 47. Oh, did I get it? Hold on. I probably don't have the. So four. Is it typing in there now? Yeah, 47.
Yep.
6. So let's say they're, for whatever reason, they're using that channel. I don't know what the PL tone is, so I can leave it as search. And then I can switch this to Public Works. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm basically done. I
Yeah.
can switch this if
So
I know
you
it's.
just added a channel to the favorites list. You can't edit the full database, but you certainly can edit the favorites list,
You
add,
can,
subtract, rename channels, whatever you want to do.
yeah, you can go to town in this screen. So the
Oh,
biggest
yeah,
thing you want to
absolutely.
do is, let's say if we did know digital or analog, we could do that here. Let's say it's analog. I'm going to add a PL tone just for the sake of it. So
Mm-hmm.
once we're done here, we're going to go in, click the X. It's going to ask us to save it. So make sure you save it. And then we're going to look at, once this loads, sorry, it's a little latency because this computer is doing, not only
Yeah.
doing this, but it's also streaming to you guys as well. So I'll go into Carver, and you'll be able to see Public Works 2 right there, all listed out
Yep.
nice and neat. And you can see my edits here where I've got rid of municipalities off of Bridgewater and Abington. So
Yeah. So you've
this
edited
stuff,
names, you've edited channels, added channels, you know.
yep. So all types of things. What
So,
is another question that we have, Rich, that's available
all
to
right.
us?
The next one is setting up a truck system is which is cheaper for P25 or DMR. So LDR is, I think what he's asking is for the users. Is it, so if I wanted to set up a trunking system for my Mayberry Police Department, would it be cheaper for me to buy a P25 system or a DMR system? DMR
Good
by
question.
far.
Yeah,
It's
because
much
DMR
cheaper.
is the sedan, right?
Yeah, DMR is the sedan, and P25 is the Cadillac. So now, with that being said, one of the reasons that P25 is so popular with so many public safety agencies is if you are using any type of federal money and you're getting a digital system for public safety, it has to be P25 because interoperability reasons and federal regulations. If you're using any federal money, it's going to have to be P25. If you're paying for it out of your own pocket or out of your own tax money dollars, then yeah, you can get DMR, NXDN, or any digital mode. You can get a D-Star system or something like that if you really want to be
Then
goofy.
off the
But
wall. Yep.
yeah, exactly. But if you're using federal money for a digital system, whether it's analog or trunking, it has to be P25. It's more expensive, but there's a lot of other reasons. It's also much more robust and designed specifically for public safety use.
I totally get it.
What?
I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing of it is like interoperability. You hit the nail right in the head on that. That's what the biggest
Yeah.
the thing that everybody's striving for is interoperability, and that kind of sets the bar. You know, like if we're gonna give you money for this, we want interoperability.
Exactly. So that way Mayberry can talk to Mount Pilot because they're all on P25. So it's trying to make things as easy to share resources between as possible. All right. So the next question is from our buddy Robert. Can you use Sentinel for a BCT 125, which has not been discontinued? Can't be a scanner master or a scanner guy show without talking about the non-discontinuance of the 125.
Yet again, the 125 falls in the category as a clean slate scanner. So no, it cannot be used with the Sentinel software, but you can get the Butel software. ARC 125 is great.
Yeah.
So
And the same thing goes for
that.
the BCT 15, the BCD 996s, the 325, the 396s. There's Butel software for all of those, but unfortunately, you can't use those with Sentinel. Alrighty. And let's see. Oh, LGR is back again. Yep, I'm happy to be back. I really missed being on the show the last month or so due to several things, some surgery, some illnesses between myself and my honey. It was a rough month, but things are great now. So I'm happy to be back, and Jonathan is going to put up with me.
I can't remember if I've updated the firmware on this one. So
Oh,
here
okay.
is the prompt that you would see if the firmware is already up to date. It says the
Or the
version
database,
in
you
the
mean.
database
Yeah.
is the current version. So what I'll do is hit OK.
Okay. And now check for the firmware version. That was a database, and now you can also check for the firmware version. And if your firmware version,
No, that was the firmware that I
that was the
checked.
database you just did. So this is
No,
now you're checking the firmware.
the database is not up to date because I haven't
No,
done
you
that.
just updated the database. You probably hit the wrong button.
No, it was the firmware one. It's gonna. Oh wait, maybe yeah, it was the. Sorry,
See, that was database. So yeah,
yeah, here we
there
go.
you go.
The
And you can
firmware.
always know when you're checking for the firmware because you're going to get the radio serial number because it's going to check there's a little file on the SD card that's going to check, and that tells them what the firmware version is, tells you what the radio serial number is. If you go back and do another check for firmware update there before you take the SD card out.
Well, I already checked it. It's current.
I know. I just wanted to show them something on that screen.
Okay, hold on. All right, I'm back in again.
Sorry. There you go. So go back to the scanner menu and do select firmware update. I'm sorry, the update menu. Yeah. So what it does, if you take a look at the very top of that box, if you want to close that pop up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It tells you what the radio model is, and it tells you what the electronic serial number is, and then the checksum number. And it gets that information from the SD card. And if you hit the info button, there you go. You can get much more information on there. The firmware version, the model, the ESN, even the status of your SD card and your Wi-Fi module, if you have the Wi-Fi module plugged in. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
No worries. I just, you were on page 7, I was on page 12. Alrighty, so our next question comes from somebody I'm guessing is in Tennessee. Is simulcast ability the only main advantage of the SDSs over the 996s? There's a lot of stuff that the SDS does that the 996 doesn't. Not only the superior simulcast performance, but the color display and the customizable color display, and obviously you have the database and the firmware and the free Sentinel software. So yeah, there's a lot more that the SDS does over the 996. What might be a better question is simulcast ability the main advantage of the SDS over the 536? because now you're doing a more apples to apples comparison. The the 536 and the SDS are very similar in operation and performance, with the difference of being the simulcast and the customizable color display that you're going to get with the SDS. Alrighty, Jonathan's updating all his firmware tonight. So I assume that the 996 got it and the 325 should have. I'm not sure of the context because I don't remember what else was being talked about at the time. But if you're talking about firmware updates, then whatever firmware updates come from for the 996P2, you should also get it on the 325. If you're talking about Sentinel being usable on it, it's not usable on either of those two radios, and we've discussed that situation before.
Excuse me.
All right, you want to take this one? Oh, there we go. It was the answer to the prior question, so thank you, Joe. Let's see here. The database update the same for the SDS 100 and 200.
We mentioned that one already.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're using X36 version of the Sentinel software, the database, you do the database once, and it's usable for any of the 4 radios and whatever radios you use it for.
A tip when you're doing the updating, make sure your radio is off before you eject the SD card. We covered that one as well.
Yep.
The answer is no. Use the Butel software. What's the next one we got?
We got a 536 for a trip. Any of the railroads are using DMR or NXDN? If so, which ones?
You're going to have to look at radio reference. Mm-hmm. Basically, that's going to be the indicator of what railroads you're trying to monitor. For right now, short lines are using NXDN. Maybe some yards are using it. But as for the major players, all the mainline roads are going to be analog. So it's very limited on NXDN or DMR, unless they're their own private right of way that nobody else is on, or it could be like a yard that they use the digital. Other than that, like if you're rail fanning mainline for Norfolk Southern, CSX, BNSF, Union Pacific, any of the Canadian lines, it's going to be analog.
Exactly. So, Mr. Pixels wants to know how to unmount the radio using the software. So, I'm assuming that we're talking about unmounting after you do the firmware update. And that's exactly what you do. When you download the firmware, if you're using the radio instead of a SD card reader, when the firmware download is complete, you can just unplug the USB cable from the radio, and it's just like having the radio have been turned off and on again. It will automatically start updating. Because remember, when you plug the USB cable into the radio and then the other end of the computer, you're going to get a message on the screen of the radio saying, do you want to go into serial mode or into mass storage mode? And for all the stuff you're going to be doing in Sentinel, you have to be in mass storage mode. So you hit the E for enter button. That'll bring you into the mass storage mode. And the radio stops receiving, and it turns the radio into an SD card reader. And it allows you it mounts the SD card onto your computer, E drive, F drive, just like any other removable drive, using the radio as the SD card reader. And it does all that. The only advantage really to doing it with the USB cable into the radio is that when you're done, all you do is just unplug the USB cable and the firmware updates are done. See here, Ron says Sentinel needs under help a check for software update. We talked about this a little while ago. Sentinel will automatically check for updates when you check for a database version update. And
Yes.
if there is a update that you need, it will automatically prompt you to download it.
Well, the good thing about this is with it doing this, it forces you to periodically update your radio.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, or your computer, and
yeah.
So yeah, it does that automatically, Ron. And so if you want to check to see if there is a new version of Sentinel, just do a database version update, and it will automatically check the server for that. All right. This is a question we get quite often. It's a very good question, and since we are both Mac people here, yes and no. So if you've got an Intel-based Mac, iMac, MacBook Pro, Mac Mini, you can run Windows-based software using something like Boot Camp or Parallels or Fusion, but you have to actually install Windows to do it. There are some ways to run Windows programs on a computer without using one of those. Wine is one of those methods. But if you know how to do that, then you won't have a problem doing it. If you have an M1 or an M2 Mac, you can still do it. I've done it, but it's a lot more difficult to get Windows set up on an M1 or M2 Mac than it was on an Intel. It probably would be cheaper and probably easier to go to the store or Amazon or a used computer store and get a cheap Windows laptop. We were at Micro Center
Yes.
back in May, and they had a real Windows laptop, small one, like
Which I'm
a
using
7-inch
right
screen?
now.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at right now. And what was that? 50, $60?
It's like $70. Here it is right
Yeah,
here.
yeah. It's a tiny little cheap Mac, cheap Windows laptop.
There's
Um,
nothing cheap about Mac.
no, there's nothing cheap about Mac, but it is like I say, less than $100, and you can get yourself a Windows computer with real Windows and do everything that look at we're doing right now on a $70 laptop brand that he bought brand new. So, all right. Can review any settings either in the radio or in the software that needs to be set to use the GPS.
Hold on
I
one.
lost
Sorry
you.
about that.
Oh, okay.
I was here. I was muted on purpose. Um, so let's see. Can you review any settings in the radio or
He wants
software?
to see how to do GPS settings
Sure. Hold on one second. I'm updating the firmware on
on radio
my
number
SPS.
17.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really neat to be able to do it as soon as this finishes. It'll take a
Mm-hmm.
second. But yeah, I've officially updated on all the radios in here that need it. I work 40 hours a week, so
Yeah.
I'm like
40.
joking.
I thought you worked more like 60.
It feels like in between. Well, it's probably about 50 for my regular job, and then probably
Yeah.
another 10 hours working on stuff for scanner guys and train aficionado.
Yeah.
So let me. It's probably near 90. All I know, I don't keep track of
Yeah.
it. So let's take a look at this here. So what I want to do is we want to edit that. So I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
into programming again. Rich, if you could pull, I'm not too sure if we're going to need the screen space, but we'll pull off the comment if you want it
Oh,
mine.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what we're going to do is let's say Middleborough was my hometown. And for whatever reason, I knew that that signal would go further than the 4 or 5 mile radius. So I wanted to, increase the range of that. So it'd go, so I'll be able to hear it for longer as I'm on my scanner as I move away from it. So you can see here latitude and longitude, which we can do in Google. If you wanted the
Mm-hmm.
center point of Middleborough, you could use some sort of website and it would pull up latitude, longitude, and then you would copy and paste it in here. The other thing you can do in here is we can do the radius. So we can do that and we can make this, let's say we want to make this 10 miles. It's as simple as that. So basically, you're going to use a website in conjunction with this to be able to look up the latitude and longitude for that community that you're looking to
Right.
add, or you can change the radius. So once I'm done here, I can then go to the X and save this. So a lot of the stuff where we get into the weeds of being able to do more of the Sentinel software is in the
Mm-hmm.
programming mode. Let me show you again
Yeah.
how I got there in case I did it too quickly.
And you
So
can
what?
do the same thing on a favorites list that you create from scratch.
Yep. Yeah. So right here, let me show you again. So I click on the name of the favorites list, which is Plymouth County, and then I will do program list. And there we go. It loads up. The other thing, like
Mm-hmm.
Rich mentioned, you want to do a favorites list from scratch. See this little icon that I'm pressing way up in the top left? So what I'll do is I'll enter a name of a favorites list. Let's just call it test just for the sake of it. Here we go right here. We've got test. And then we can go into program favorites list. Give it a second. And then what we can do is we can create a system.
Mm-hmm.
So we could do it old school and take a long time and do a trunk system. I'll show
Yeah.
you how to do it conventional because it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is let's say this is Middleborough, Middleborough. So then it pops up Middleborough over here. And then I can create a department. So let's say if I wanted, let's say Middleborough was a big town and I wanted to have all the police channels in one
Mm-hmm.
section. So police. Then I could go into here. And now I just add my channels.
Yep.
So I can
And
go
this
in
is
here.
where you can do, yeah. So when you add a channel, then you can also set a location on that.
Yep, right up here. So I'll go up here, put my latitude, longitude, and my range. Done. And
Yep.
this is literally building from scratch.
Yep.
So you could technically build from scratch in the Sentinel software if you like. It's a lot easier using the database, but if you're doing some really cool custom programming,
Yeah.
you can do it here. It can be a little bit easier using Butel software because let's say you have all this information in a spreadsheet. There's
Mm-hmm.
a way to import some of that information in or copy and paste it in relatively easy versus doing it here. But yeah, you
Yep.
can do quite a bit with this free software.
Absolutely. All right. The next question comes from John. If you hold the control key, can you pick and choose certain channels? So go back to the Plymouth County. I'm not 100% sure if that'll work now. And you know how you use the shift button to, you select one thing, then you hold the shift button, and then select another, and you get everything in between. What happens if you so go into the channel editor for this? Pick something and go to a channel editor. Go down to like Abington or something. Yeah, good. But yeah, go. Yeah, just program a favorites list. Okay, there we go. Now go into. Okay. All right, so that loads up. Now you're going to go into the channel list for one of these towns. There you go. Now let's you know how if you select fire operations, and then if you hold the shift button and then select the last channel, it should select all the channels, or do the same thing with the municipalities. Now, what happens? Okay, so unselect it. So just select one channel. Now, hold the control button down. Select the fire channels because so they're separated. The fire operations there. Now, hold the control button down and select public works. There, it does work. Very good. So, so shift Yeah, click on one channel, hit shift, and select the last channel. It'll do everything in between. Control button allows you to pick and choose and cherry pick, as Jonathan likes to say, individual channels to do a mass change. So I didn't know if that would work. That's why we did all this, and now we know it will. You're muted.
It'll work here too.
Mm-hmm.
So let me show you an example. We'll go to Bristol. So let's take, for instance, we only want the operations channels.
Mm-hmm.
So do that there. Do this. Let's say, yeah, we'll do the secondary, and we'll do the secondary for records.
Yeah.
So then I can go up to here and append to a favorites list as well. So I can go here, select my favorites list, hit OK. It's only going to bring in those 2 items. The same thing, for example, let's say our scanner is staying stationary. I'm going to go into the statewide digital trunk system. Oops, got the wrong thing. Mass State Police. Is this right here? Okay. So let's say we want, I'm in Middleborough and I'm going to monitor D Troop. So I'm going to select D Troop. And I know that the site I want is called Bristol and Plymouth County.
Mm-hmm.
Now watch this. I'm going to append this to a favorites list. We're going to call this MSP, Mass State Police. Hit OK. See what it just did there?
Yep.
It basically, shoot, it still brought it in. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'll show you how to fix that. Sometimes I couldn't remember if that worked or not. So basically, what it did is it brought in all the sites. We're going to fix this now. So what we're going to do is under the favorites list, we're going to highlight that, and then highlight. It's been a while since I've done all.
Yeah, highlight all the ones you want to get rid of.
Hold on. And then we're going to get rid of that one, and then we're going to remove from favorites list. And then that'll weed it down so it's just the site and the top groups.
In the department. Very good.
Yeah, it's been a while since I did that. I couldn't remember if it would do it from there, but I know I can do it from the favorites list.
Here's another good question for you. Can a trunk system and conventional channels exist in the same favorites list?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll demonstrate that right now. Matter of fact, we're going to do something. We're going to pull something from a favorites list. So this is a favorites list. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to append this to a favorites list. So I'm actually going to take this Middleborough, and I'm going to put it in with the MSP.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So we'll go into, let me just minimize this so we can kind of see. So you can see here, Mass State Police.
Yep.
So there's that, and there's Plymouth County, and there's the conventional. So conventional and trunking mixed together.
Yeah, so what happens when you create a favorites list, within the favorites lists are departments, and any one department can be either conventional or trunked. And so you can have multiple trunking systems or trunking departments and multiple conventional departments, or one of one and several of the other, whatever combination you want in an individual favorites list. So if you, let's say you're going to travel from here to from Phoenix to Ohio, and I want to create a bunch of favorites lists along the way, so I create one for Arizona. I have some trunking and some conventional, and then when I get to New Mexico, I have a few trunking systems and a few conventional systems, and on and on and on. And then you can turn it off my Arizona favorites list, and then turn on the New Mexico favorites list, and it has both conventional and trunking in it. So great question, Bob.
Yeah, just so you guys know, the laptop that I'm using tonight is actually posted in the chat. Rich, this laptop now is $59.99.
And you know what? It's a very It's ideal for running something like Sentinel. It's a one-trick pony. You can't run. You're not going to be running Photoshop and playing intensive video games on it. But to do word processing, or in our case, some radio programming, it's ideal. And like I say, it's about the price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
The other thing too is if you're using a 996 or a 15,
Mm-hmm.
and you got it mounted in the radio, mounted in the car, I should say.
Yeah.
It's a laptop. You can bring the
Yeah.
laptop out to the car and just plug into the front.
Yeah. And if you can't get the SD card because there is no SD card, bingo. And like I say, it's $70. If it breaks, you toss it in the trash and buy a new one.
Yeah, well, actually, it's $60 now, so it's even better.
Yeah. So Morgello wants to find out where the hidden key lock feature is. So where you can get the DMR, NXDN, and Pro Voice keys for free. I can do that. Jonathan can do that. You can't do it. No, we can't even do that.
Can't do
so
that, yeah.
no, ain't gonna happen. So how do you edit an individual channel? We've shown that already, so we're good there.
Yeah.
Have you updated the new firmware, and what changes? So I think Joe mentioned it. There it is. There is a bug that has been repaired. So a couple months ago, a radio reference member discovered that certain radios were not decoding digital above 171.2 megahertz. And it's a lot of people would never have come across that because there are very few digital channels up there that anybody is really listening to. But this guy did, and good for him, because this is kind of an obscure thing, but for some people can be very important. So that is one of the things that was fixed with that new firmware. And there's some other ones. And I think if you go to the Twiki page at Uniden, it should list what was updated with the firmware version. So
I believe Joe Bearcat's been pretty good about that. I was just on there the other day, and I saw him making some updates, so which is great.
Right. And the other place to find it is in the Uniden forums at the Radio Reference website. All that stuff is going to be discussed ad nauseum up there. So, and like I say, Joe's been very good about informing people about these things when he's able to do so. And sometimes there's restrictions on when some of this stuff can be released to the public. Want to edit the on-off and LED color. You want to show them how to do that on the channel?
Yeah, sure. So let's do that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to collapse all this crap down. Hold on one second. Just so we can just look at what we need to. Okay, so let's we'll pick on Middleborough a little bit more tonight. Hold on. Let me just turn down some of this now that I've updated stuff. So what we're going to do is, yet again, you're going to see a common theme here. We're going to go into the name of the favorites list, and then we're going to go to program list. Give it a second for it to load. Of course, it's doing multiple things tonight. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go into Middleborough. We're going to see over here, we can not only do LED alerts, we can actually do that little tone. So let's say if this is a channel that does not have a lot of activity and you want some sort of tone, there's activity on that channel that I have programmed in here. You can set that here just by clicking here, and then you can do one of the, you would have to listen to these to be able to see. So there's basically 9 different options for tone alerts. So over here, we can do colors. Mm-hmm. So we can pick from any of these colors. Let's say we get the fire dispatch, so we could do that red. We can do it's just on. We can do a slow blink. We can do a fast blink. So let's just do on.
Yeah, and then on 536, that's going to be the light behind the big silver knob. On the 436, there's a little LED at the bottom of the speaker. And on the SDSs, I forget where the... it's behind the knob on the SDS 200. And on the 100, it's... Oh, it's on the top of the radio. I forgot where it was, but it's on the top of the radio.
Are you wearing short shorts?
Hey, it's 117 out there right now. You're lucky I'm wearing pants or anything.
Okay. I saw a lot more of your legs than I usually see.
Yeah, well, there's actually a lot less of my legs now than there was last time you saw me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm happy it's just the legs we're seeing.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to mention is,
No, I will not moon the audience.
you know how we talk a lot about volume offset? We've talked about that quite a bit. Since we're right here in this display, for example, with the analog channels, Rich, we've talked about this. You know, some channels, the repeaters volume is extremely loud, and some of them it's very quiet. So let's say the fire department was quiet. We can edit this over here with either the pluses or the minuses here. So basically it's set to 0. We can do a +1, to bump it up 1 notch, +2 to bump up to 2, +3 to bump up to 3 notches. So it would be the loudest. Same thing on the negatives. We can bump it down 1, 2, or 3 notches. So you can do that here as well, which is really nice. You can see what I did here is I did the fire while Rich was talking in red, and then the police with blue, but I did a fast blink on blue. So there's a lot of stuff you can do here with the Sentinel software. And of course, we can get into number tagging. We're not going to get into that tonight. That's our good old favorite quick keys and what have you.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. We did that. How do you do mass edits, like changing FM to narrow FM for all the channels in a favorites list? And take a minute and show that. That's basically changing the entire column.
Yeah, let me see here.
Now, that might be important if you're probably more common to do when you're creating your own from scratch. But normally, the proper mode is normally already going to be there, but sometimes it's not. So basically, if you can do a channel, go to the channel edit. So let's say you want to change all of these to narrow FM. And maybe some of them are FM, some are narrow FM. You can do it that way?
I think we can. I've never done this before. Actually,
yeah, I haven't either.
You got to do it one by one.
Yeah, it looks like it. Unless somebody pops up and tells us that. But
yeah, because this is a pull down here, and it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna register what's below it. Nope.
No, and I don't think if you do a select all, and then as soon as you click on that on the top one to change them, it's just gonna unselect the rest of them. Unfortunately, so.
Yeah. So the good thing about importing from the database, the good thing about it is it's going to have the correct thing, like Rich said. So let's say, for example, this detective channel is actually FM narrow. Go in here and flip it. It's really easy to do. Same thing.
Joe mentioned that you can copy and paste. So let's say go to the FM one down the last channel.
Hold on, I'm going to do it. I'm going to switch it to FM narrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
That's copy and paste. So there's your trick.
And again, remember, if you click on one of those channels, right click on it.
Hold on, I'm going to make it FM.
So
we're going to do a control copy. Let's do.
No, you got that's no, that's not going to work. Select one channel now. Right click on it. And you see the Control A, Control C, Control V.
Yeah, I did that.
You can. Yeah, so if you do Control C, that way you don't have to use the mouse each time. So if you click on NM and then hit Control C, it'll copy that, and then you can go up and then use Control V to paste that value into each of the other columns without having to use your mouse to right click and copy paste.
Either way, it gets the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Joe, for helping on that. I
remember what things were, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So Nigel asks, when do you use the erase favorites list check mark? That was back on the when you're writing it to the scanner. He wants to have a little bit more. So when you go to the scanner menu and then select right to scanner,
Yeah.
um, go to yeah, there you go, and then right to go to scanner and right to scanner.
Oops, sorry, Reed. I don't have an SD card in here anymore, so.
No, that's okay. I just we'll see what happens when it yeah. Okay, so that see that box there where it says right erase favorites list. So when you click on that, it will take the favorites lists that are on your scanner and erase them, and then rewrite them with any of the favorites lists that you have set for the radio or for the software to write to the SD card.
The
If
other
the
thing, the other
well,
thing I
if
will,
the
go ahead.
go ahead. Okay, if the favorites list that you have on your scanner are to be replaced in their entirety with the ones that are on your computer or the one that you have set up to write to the scanner, you want to do that in case you have some stray favorites lists that you don't want anymore. If you want to, if you leave that unclicked, the only favorites lists that will be changed that are currently on the scanner are ones with the same name as one. If there's a favorites list that you have on your computer that has the same name as the one that's on your SD card, it will replace it
But it will
with that.
prompt you first
Yeah,
before it does that. It won't
yeah,
just copy over. It'll ask you, do you want to copy over this with whatever you're sending from the
yeah.
computer?
Replace it with one on the radio or add to it. So basically, is if you're basically doing a entire rewrite of all your favorites lists, click that erase favorites list. It'll delete the stuff from the radio, and then rewrite and then write over the ones that you have set to do that. So, why are unknown talk groups showing up on his scanning? And that one is actually a pretty simple explanation. So, if you have a trunking system set up on your scanner, there's a selection where you can set it to ID scan or ID search. If you set it to ID scan, the radio will only hear the channels that you have programmed into that favorites list, and obviously show the names of them and everything else. If you set it to ID search, not only will it scan those talk groups, but it will also open up any talk group that's active on the system that the radio can hear. And what you'll get there is if that talk group is already listed in your favorites list, it'll show up as Mayberry Police or whatever it happens to be. But if it's not in your favorites list already, it'll show like unknown. I don't remember what the nomenclature is, but it'll say like unknown talk group number 28934. And it'll give you a talk group ID number, but it doesn't know who it is or what it is. So it's just going to tell you it's an unknown talk group with a number. So if you don't want to hear that stuff, go in and change that particular trunking system from ID search to ID scan.
Okay. Let me just skip to this one.
Yeah.
So we've got a question about how to get rid of all the favorites lists. So what we can actually do is, let's say I want to get rid of everything. I can basically go over here, highlight these two, and remove from favorites list. I can delete all my favorites lists just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're completely gone. So if I want to start off with a mass delete on my favorites list, I can either select them all or select a couple of them and just clean it out that way, real quick and easy, just like that.
Cool. Let's see here. That is that one. All right. Ed has an SDS 200. He wants to listen to ham radio. He's have it checked on the favorites list and service type is turned on, and he's not hearing anything. So, a couple things can be going on. Number one, whatever channels are listed in the favorites list for that particular area may not be active. Number two, the radio reference database with ham radio operations is nowhere near as complete as it is for public safety stuff. So, ham radio has got, they are listed in the radio reference database, in the individual, not in the nationwide, but in the counties and such. There are some nationwide systems there. So if you go up to the top there, Amateur Radio Canada and U.S., but those are mainly nationwide channels like the calling channels and such. So if you want to take a look at it, those are the calling channels for the bands that the scanner is capable of in some nationwide use channels. But your local repeaters and systems are going to be listed in the main part of the database for your county that you choose. So if you go to a state and then select a county, you should see amateur radio in there under county systems, I think. Yep,
Yeah,
there
right,
you go.
right there.
There you go. So those are listed in there. But remember, the amateur radio portion of the radio reference database is not nearly as complete as the public safety stuff is. So there are many sources where you can go to find your local repeaters, repeater books, websites, local websites, and other places where you can get the local repeaters, and you can add those in, append them to your existing favorites list, or create one from scratch.
Yeah, I mean the great thing about it is if you do have one of those, you can actually submit that information to Radio Reference. That is
Yep.
valuable information. So if you've got a ham repeater for one county, do some research, get the location of where it is, the call sign
Mm-hmm.
of the system and everything. You can submit that to Radio Reference, and you can kind of be a part of improving the database.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on this one. How do I cancel the SO line under the favorites? They're both blinking on a specific channel. I'm not quite sure what he's meaning. Are you talking about the SO line on the bottom of the scanner? You might be in.
Well, it's on the top on the 536. So
Yeah.
so he might have something set to a favorites or something, or a
Yeah.
quick key. And you may have done it by accident if you didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah. Let's see here. We talked about the shift key and the control key. How to create a quick key.
Oh God.
I'll let you run with this one, my friend.
I'm good tonight. We're not going to do that tonight because
Yeah.
I have to. I
We
don't want
have.
to pull around it for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
At some point, we can definitely do it. It's just
We
not,
actually did an entire show segment on quick keys a few months ago, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a few months of a year ago. Yeah, it was at some point. It's on the YouTube channel. How many of you in the comments like this type of programming where we actually had a video that premiered at the top of the hour, and then we rolled into a Q&A? The reason why we did it as two separate things is so if people just want to do a how-to video, they can watch the 15-minute how-to video. If they want to deep dive into this, into a Q&A, there's another video they can watch, and they can learn some additional stuff here. Let me know. I would like to know in the comments. Of course, Joe, you need to be on the show, and we can do a whole show on quick keys.
Yeah.
Of course, he commented on doing it. Yeah, Joe, we'll have to have you on, and I'll show you how to share your screen, and then you can kind of show people how to do the quick keys. We'll let Joe take the lead on that because he uses quick keys a lot. I use quick keys occasionally, but I don't use it enough to be able to do it on the fly relatively quick. I'm going to have to look at it and see.
Yeah. And I despise quick keys, so I avoid them, like I avoid the plague. So, and another show suggestion: how sometime doing set up quick keys and favorite keys on ARC 536.
Yeah.
I think that's in our planning stage.
We'll do that too, as well.
Moving on a little bit from the Sentinel software, Todd asks about the 796. I think the ARC 250 program would be your better bet.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, download the demo version, and if you like it, you can use it for what 30 days or 3 downloads or something like that.
There's
Download the demo version, try it, and see if you like it.
yeah, there's limited capability to it, but if you already like the feel of it, go ahead and buy it.
Yeah. Um, okay, so here's a pretty good question. If you're talking favorites list, is it pretty much the same thing as a scan list on the Whistler scanner? Pretty much, they have a scan list in a Whistler scanner is kind of which systems and stuff are running on that particular radio. So it's a little bit of apples versus oranges type of thing, but the overall effect is going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I haven't played with a Whistler in a while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I used to when I was working full time with Scanner Master. Basically, I had Whistler radios in front of me, and I had Uniden radios, and I had to know them inside and out because I was fielding calls every day. I'm fielding calls for a different company, but it's not Scanner.
Yeah.
So I'm not
So,
playing with Whistler all the time. I
yeah.
am playing with Uniden, but sometimes I'm not doing everything that the radio does. So I basically have to go in there and say, "Oh, how do I do this again?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So if
you
you
know,
want to learn about widgets, call Jonathan during the daytime. So
all right, what else do we have here? Anything?
let's see here. How to do a mass delete of favorites list.
I
Just a couple
showed
minutes.
that one we already did.
Yep, we did, didn't we?
Yep.
And the last one that we've got on our star list is, can ID search be used in the full database? Great question. The answer to that one is no. The ID search only works on favorites lists. So when you create a trunking favorites list, you can, once you get the system and the sites in there, if you do not put a department with talk groups in it, it will default to ID search, or you can turn off ID search or turn on ID search and not program in any talk groups. The thing is you won't get any names. You'll only get numbers, talk group numbers. So, yeah, it'll be a cheap and easy way to get you into scanning the system, but you're not going to have names. So that's why you want to put favorites lists together, talk groups in a favorites list. But you can turn on ID search in your favorites list and have both the stuff that you've got programmed into the radio and the new stuff. That's exactly what I do all the time. All right, a couple new questions. When setting up a favorites list for a county, say like on the Ohio Mark system, do you only need to load sites for that particular county?
Well, the thing is if the scanner is stationary, I'll demo this again because
Mm-hmm.
I basically botched it the first time. So let's say we're going to do a little trunk system, which is the Rhode Island statewide system. So let me go into here. You can see there's a whole slew of stuff. If I scroll down here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sites. So let's say I decide I want to create a favorites list, and I only care about the Rhode Island State Police, and I only want to listen to the north portion of the
Mm-hmm.
system. So I'm up in the northern part of the state. I only want to hear the Rhode Island State Police for north. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a favorites list. I'm going to right click. I'm going to select just that, append to favorites list. I'm going to create a new favorites list, RISP. I'm going to hit OK. Now we go down here to the favorites list. You can see, well, I have to hold on one second, Rich. I'm going to take us off the screen.
Okay.
So you can see here the RSP favorites list. You can see that I grabbed the talk groups for the northern part of the state. So there's a site, a simulcast for the northern part of the state. I don't want to be scanning these other sites. So what I'll do is I will do a select all, and then I'm going to do a control. I'm going to unhighlight that and unhighlight the north. And then I'm basically going to remove, hit OK. They're gone. So now all I have is basically the north simulcast and the talk groups I want to hear in that section in the state, which is in the northern part of the state, which is the Rhode Island State Police District A North. So yeah, I mean, if the scanner is stationary, I would highly recommend removing the other sites, because what it's going to do is it's going to check these sites for activity, and it may be able to pick up at night a couple of bars. So it's going to sit there for a couple of seconds, and then it's going to look at the other site. So um, definitely you can weed out, especially on a big trunk system. Let me um, let me show you a big trunk system. So let's look at the Ohio trunk system, and we'll pick any old county because I can get to it. Statewide system. Here's the mark system. So I'm going to click into here. Let's say that I'm interested in the city of Cincinnati. So I want Cincinnati Police, and I want Cincinnati EMS Fire. I'm going to go to append to favorites list. I'm just going to name this favorites list quickly. Just name it Ohio. And look, it pulled in all the sites, but
Right.
this scanner is stationary. So what I'm going to do is just going to do a quick search there. Of course, before we do this, we want to do our research on radio reference,
Yeah.
because we want to look for the site. I already know that the site is Cincinnati, so I got to find it. There it is, City of Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. So then I have everything else all highlighted. So basically at the top, I have our 2 departments that I want to monitor. And I want to get rid of all these sites, but the one that's for the City of Cincinnati. So I'll append, and we will delete, hit OK. It'll refresh. And there we go. So basically we have police and fire, and then the one site we need to monitor.
And it might, in your particular situation, might be 2 sites or 3 sites, but it works exactly the same way. Select everything and then control, highlight the ones that you want to keep, and then trash the rest, because normally you're going to be trashing much more than you're going to be keeping. All right. Next one. Okay, this is a good question, and we have an answer, a follow-up answer from another viewer here. On his SDS, he's using Bluetooth to listen, using a Bluetooth adapter to listen to it. And on the SDS, he has to crank it way high. But on his 325, it doesn't need to be maxed out. And our buddy Dan, who's always been a great help on these shows, says that they've got different types of amplifiers on the SDSs than on the 325. And it doesn't push enough, as much audio out of that antenna jack as the 325 does. So there are technical reasons why that's happening, and unfortunately there's not a whole lot you can do about fixing that at your end other than crank the volume.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan, for helping us out on that. We always appreciate our viewers answering the questions in the comments, because we may not know or remember the answer to a specific question. And so that's why we always look at the comments to try to find some of these answers if we're not 100% sure. So that's a great one. Do we use location-based scanning when we're on the road? I do, if I don't know the area. You do, even if you do know the area, turn on your systems, right?
Yeah, so basically what I have in the truck, and what I really, when I was living in Massachusetts, I don't travel as much now because I work from home. But when I was working in the office in Holliston, I had a favorites list that was the whole entire New England. So far reaches up to north, up in Maine, down the Cape Cod, through Rhode Island and Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire. I've created this huge favorites list, and then what I did is I used that favorites list when I traveled. So it would turn things on and off. It worked great. I love using that. For here where I'm at, Cincinnati, I have a smaller favorites list that I'm currently working on. I'm currently building it out. I don't travel too far outside of the Cincinnati area, but I do have it GPSed. So when I do travel, outside of Cincinnati and I go up to Hamilton, just north of me, I won't be hearing the city of Cincinnati. I'll be hearing Hamilton. And as
Yeah.
I travel, to different parts of the area, it'll do that. So it'll automatically turn things on and off. I mentioned in one of the shows that I've done, um, the city of Charlotte, they had everything all grouped together as one thing. What I ended up doing is each district, I broke it out into sections. So, District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4, I broke it all out and then put latitude, longitude, and center points on each one of those. So, depending on what part of Charlotte I was in, I'd be only hearing that district. So that was a lot of
Yeah.
customization of programming, which you can do. I recommend probably doing it with the Butel software. You can do it on here, but it's a lot easier with a Butel when you're trying to do something that's
Yeah.
extremely intricate.
And I use location-based scanning when I'm driving outside my known area. So again, like I say, I drive to Chicago a lot, and so I'll use it on the way because I don't want to have to build favorites lists for everything along the way, and I just carefully select the services that I want, and it works really well with the GPS. You were talking earlier about deleting those sites. Yes, you can avoid those sites as well. So it does have the same effect as deleting the sites from your favorites list. You can just avoid them. And the nice thing about that is if you might want to use that site in the future, you don't have to go and rebuild it. So you can just turn them on and off by using the avoid button there for the sites.
Thing
See
is,
here.
during the avoid, it's a little bit more work in the software. Let me
Yeah.
show you how to do that. So what we're going to do is populate this one here. We only have one. We only have one site, so we
Yeah.
avoid this site. We're basically toast.
Turn the computer on the screen.
Oops, hold on one second. So let me go back in. Sorry, because I can see the screen in front of me. I keep forgetting to share my screen. So, for example, this site here has only got one site. So if I avoid this site, this trunking system will be useless, but we'll show you anyway. So we're going to go into favorites list, program favorites list, excuse me.
You
Hold on. I got it. It's just, there's a little bit of, what is it? Oh, it's Ohio. There we go. I got to go up to the name. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, you were selecting on the department instead of the
That's
favorites list.
that's why we're doing a live show.
Oh yeah, because you're peeling the onion and you just got too deep into the onion there.
Yeah, and plus I'm doing the live show. I'm punching up the board and everything here. So what we would do is we would go here and hit avoid. It's much easier to create a favorites list and just have it set up that way. What I would recommend doing is you have unlimited amount of, you can make as many favorites lists as you like. So you can make a favorites list in this style, and you can make a favorites list that has all the sites. You can do multiple versions of it. But if this scanner is stationary, I would do it like this. But of course, I'm going to take this off of void because this favorites list will be useless. Let's say if I was playing around in here and I didn't want to save things and I wanted to keep it the way it was, I can just hit no and it'll just go back to whatever it was. So let's say if I deleted things by accident. Somebody asked about an undo. There's not really an edit undo on here, but let's say we were playing around in here. Let me go back in again. We can show you. So let's say for whatever reason, let me go back in. And let's say for whatever reason, I go in and let's do it here. One second. So let's say by accident I go here and I go, I'm not too sure what the hell I'm doing. I just deleted all the fire talk groups. So what I can do here is just hit the X, hit no, and it's still there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your edit undo. So make sure you kind of catch it before you do it.
Yeah. So basically, you're using the no option on save in lieu of a true undo feature.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see here. One thing I wish that was the one you just talked about. Did we touch upon the subject of editing the SDS's color screen? No, and there's a great reason why we didn't is because that is an entire show by itself.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you're gonna go to that particular section.
Yeah, we'll give you the 30. So put the computer back on the screen.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm just trying to get it up.
Oh, okay.
So
There you
here
go.
it is, right here. You can edit the living crap out of this.
Yep.
You can change the colors. We're not going to get into this tonight, but basically, this is all you got to do. It loads the
Yeah, you
two.
want to show them how to get there?
Yeah, so clicking right here.
Yeah. And make sure your target radio is set to the proper radio, SES 100 or 200.
Of course, it's not loading the second screen.
Yeah.
That's why we don't do this live. But yeah, it's right here. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this will be a produced video. This won't be something that I do live, and I'll be able to take the time to do it.
Yeah. And we'll do the same thing. We'll do that live and then answer questions after. So.
Okay. Yeah, more work
And
for me.
yep, and that'll be a show come up in the future that's on our list. Yeah, and yep. And and Jonathan does all the work on this. I'm just the comic relief. Jonathan does all the work on this, so make sure you give him some loving sometime.
Yeah, I purchase t-shirts and such
Yep.
that helps me. Eventually, I don't know if we'll, there could be a point where we don't have a sponsor for the show, and
hmm
the sponsor does not cover all the labor that goes into
No.
this. I'll be absolutely honest with you. The amount of hours that I bill to Scanner Master doesn't cover half the amount of time that we put into this.
Oh, nowhere near. So, I'm retired now, so I have the time to do this kind of stuff. Jonathan works for a living, so it's more of a labor of love. So, and then lastly, do we plan on doing a show about Butel?
Oh, well, that's coming up next week. We're going to cover the ARCXT. I first have to familiarize myself with the ARCXT because I haven't used it in a while. So
Yeah.
first I will do some work with that, and then I'll record the video versus watching me stumble through and trying to remember how to use ARCXT. So that'll be something I'll be working on this weekend. I'll record that, and I'm going to do a very similar video importing a trunk system, importing conventional, just real basic so you guys can see what it looks like. I probably will use the same type of stuff that I use. The Portland, Maine trunk system is a good
Mm-hmm.
example because it's not a huge system. And then doing a couple of conventional things. I'll do a super basic video, so it's not going to go over people's heads. It gives them the basic
Yep.
knowledge. But that'll be something that I'm going to do at the next show as long as I don't pull my hair out. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I just want to make sure you understand how much I appreciate all the work that you put into this stuff, and I'm sure our viewers do too. But it is a whole boatload of work.
yeah, I mean
So,
it certainly does. What is this slideshow of Bob? What is this slideshow of Bob?
I'm sideshow Bob. So, but yeah, it's like I say, I'm just I'm here for the ride, and so.
Let me see what we got here. Let's wrap this up since we're approaching 2 hours. I don't want to, keep people too
Mhm.
long. So we want to remind you that the Scanner Guys are brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you so much for supporting the show through shopping our Scanner Guys merch store. Of course, we're working on hats. We hope to have them at some point. It's been quite a process to be able to get the hats done for Train Aficionado. We do have brand new merch on the Train Aficionado website. Some cool t-shirts that are available. We have a variation of our logo. We actually have some funny shirts that we're starting to roll out. So definitely go to trainaficionado.com, shop that store as well. That show is not sponsored at all.
Mm-mm.
So that's basically, something that I'm working on to be able to build that show, and that's definitely we're producing more videos. We're doing a lot more with that, so definitely check out Train Aficionado. Also, affiliate link. Anytime
Yeah.
that you're ordering scanner stuff, use that affiliate link below. We do get a small percentage of the sales from Scanner Master, so use the living crap out of the affiliate link.
Yep.
And a special thanks to Scanner Master as well. They help with some of the operational costs of this. So definitely check out their website, scannermaster.com. If you are purchasing something, use the affiliate link. Let's take a look at what's coming up. So ARCXT. So I'll have to produce a video. It's going to work the same way as this show tonight. Be a premiering video that'll go over the basics of ARCXT, and then hopefully I get myself familiarized enough with it so I'm not fumbling too much with ARCXT during the live broadcast. But that'll be the final show of the month, which is the Wednesday, July the 27th. And coming up next week, Michael Edwards, the director of railroad operations for the California State Railroad Museum, joins me on the show. This show will premiere at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Make sure you set a reminder on your phone or put it on your calendar to join us. We'll be live, not live, but we'll be premiering the video on that night.
That is a fantastic railroad museum. I was there about 3 or 4 years ago and enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, so he basically talks to me about how he got into this position he has. He's worked, for various railroads over the years, and now he's the director of railroad operations at the museum. He talks about the right-of-way that they're currently on. A lot of good stuff. The interview was about 30 minutes, I believe, if I remember off the top of my head. So this video will premiere. Watch it during the premiere. Rich and I won't be live on a show that evening, but we will be watching the premiere alongside you, and we're able to comment and chat with you guys as we watch.
Yeah.
So definitely join us. It's kind of like a watch party. So we hope to do some more of these as well. Train Aficionado will have a live show in August. So we'll return back to a live format in August for one of the shows. And then we have another interview lined up that I'm going to be doing hopefully tomorrow if everything goes well. And that'll be a produced Train Aficionado show. So a lot of good stuff coming up. We're trying to mix in some of these interviews with some of our live shows. So we'll definitely have a live show next month and one of these premiere videos as well. All right, some big news. If you're from the Cincinnati area, I've been asked to speak at the Cincinnati Railroad Club. So if you're in the area, you can come and see the presentation. It'll be Thursday, August the 4th of 2022 at the Newsreel Theater at the historic Cincinnati Union Terminal. It'll be at 7:30. I'm going to be talking about 20 miles of my photographic journey up and through the Horseshoe Curve. So I'm going to be talking about everything related to Altoona, traveling through the Horseshoe Curve, going beyond the Horseshoe Curve into Crescent and Cassandra. We're going to be talking about, of course, I'll mention about Sheets, Vito's, and, everything that you need to know to basically rail fan the Horseshoe Curve. So it's going to be a great presentation. I'm going to be working on that as well. I don't know how the heck I'm going to do this. There's not enough hours in the day, but I'm going to get it done.
Will they be recording that so we can view it?
The club actually has the meetings through Zoom for the members, but I'm not too sure if they're going to be running it. What I may end up doing is I'm going to do a slideshow presentation live for them, and then I may actually do the slideshow presentation either as a live event or recorded. So maybe what I'll do is an online YouTube version of it for those of you that are not in the area.
Cool.
So just
Yeah, I'd love to
hopefully I
see
have
that
enough
myself.
hours in the day. Yeah. So basically, I'm going to take all the photos and kind of put it together. Show some of the really cool photos where I was able to capture meets and where I was able to get a vast majority of the heritage units that I've been able to get. As you can see, I've got a couple of heritage units right in the slide here. But yeah, that's going to be Thursday, August the 4th. So if you're in the area, the meetings are open to the general public. I love to fill that theater. So should
Cool.
be a good night. And I can't stress this enough as we wrap the show up. Follow, like, and subscribe to our social media: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. Check out the website, thescannerguyshow.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Shop our store. Same thing, trainaficionado.com for everything railfan related. Trainaficionado.com. Follow, like, and subscribe to that social media as well: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And very important, make sure you subscribe to the Train Aficionado website, the YouTube as well. Sorry,
Yeah.
I've been talking all day. No, the great thing about it, you don't have to buy a ticket. You just come in. The parking is free. You come into the Cincinnati Union Terminal. You can park for free. You walk right in. As long as they keep us in the newsreel theater, it's basically you come through the door, you take a hard left, and you'll be able to see it just outside the entrance. If they do move us to the other theater, which is the larger theater, we'll put a note in the door, and then, of course, you'll see a bunch of rail fans around probably 7:30 moseying on in or before then. So ask one of us, and you'll certainly be able to recognize the crew.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for sure.
Very good.
But that is it. I think there's no more slides. So yeah, that's done.
Good. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to wrap things up tonight. I know we're pushing the 2 hours. I thank you so much. I haven't said this in forever because we haven't gone for 2 hours. If you made it this far, congratulations. We will be back. We'll be back on the 27th live. So we're excited about doing this. So we're looking forward to another one of these software episodes.
Uh-oh. 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 This is a teaser, and this is all we're going to show at this time.
All right, Joe. Please let us know what those are, because that's been something that I've been wondering about.
All right. All
All
right.
right.
Well, that'll get the that'll get the forums of Twitter, won't it?
That's for sure. And the good thing about it is if there's any new models, which there seems to be new models, they will be announced here first. So make sure you pay attention. It'll be announced here first, even before Radio Reference, which is big. So Joe Bearcat, we're excited. We're very, very excited to be the spot where we're going to announce it. And I can't wait to see the number of people watching live.
Yeah, that's going to be probably our biggest show. So thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate all the work that you put into this.
All right, let's wrap it up. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
All right, have a great night. We'll be back next week for the watch party for our great show that's coming up on Train Aficionado YouTube channel. And then we'll be back on the Scanner Guys to wrap up the month.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
All right, have a good night.
Bye, guys.